I'd like to welcome everyone to this MarketVid Friday web chat. My name is Rick Dearborn, president of MarketVid. These web chats are forums to share ideas from the best thought leaders in the field of online marketing video. Today's chat is sponsored by 10daymarketingmakeover.com and Gil Efron, author of the book How to Give Your Business an Extreme Marketing Makeover, which is available at Amazon.com. The principles found in Gil's book are the foundation of how we approach marketing video at MarketVid. Our guest today is Dane Frederiksen of Digital Accomplice in Emeryville, California. Dane is going to be telling us about how his production company approaches creating marketing videos for their clients and where he thinks things are going in the coming year 2012. Now, this is an interactive web chat, so you're welcome to submit questions at any time during this 30-minute program by entering them in the Q&A window at the bottom of your screen. And then don't forget to push enter or return when you're done so the question comes through to us. Again, we're not going to have a Q&A period at the end. We'll have it during the broadcast, so if you have a question at any time, please submit it. We'd love to hear from you. Dane, nice to have you with us today from California, and why don't we begin by having you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got where you are today.
Okay, thanks very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I think the easiest way to sum up my experience is that I sort of started in the broadcast world back in the late 80s, early 90s, working on sort of documentary type productions, being an editor, assistant, that sort of thing. And then as the internet started to happen, I kind of got on board with online video in its early stages, working for companies like usatoday.com and a few startups along the way. And then in early 2000s, moved out to California and got into the sort of geek media, video game related media space. A year ago, I started my company, Digital Accomplice, and basically just trying to capitalize on all that previous experience.
Very good, thanks. And tell us a little bit about your business, Digital Accomplice, and what that's all about.
Yeah, so really what I'm trying to do is provide as the name implies, a sort of accomplice for small and medium-sized companies, sometimes even big ones. But I find that generally smaller and medium-sized companies don't have a lot of money to go to a traditional larger production company or to go to an agency, and they do have digital needs. They need video, they need maybe apps, things like that. And we're still trying to find our foot exactly what kind of services we're going to offer. But for the most part, it has been web video, and we're just trying to kind of fill a little bit of a gap in the market as we see it.
I think that's where a lot of new production companies are these days. They see the opportunity and trying to find the best way to seize it. What does your client base consist of, and what's your target market, so to speak?
I think in general, I like to think of my client as marketers, which is pretty broad, but I do, since it is kind of a broad client base, that is really the best categorization. Sorry, I can't say the word at the moment. But they do tend to be tech clients, video games, apps, software products, maybe techie, geeky hardware products like a USB drive or something like that. And I think that's largely just because of where I am. And those sort of geeky, techie kind of companies are usually the ones who are going to be a little more forward-thinking and a little more prone to adopt newer technologies like web video.
Very good. Tell us a little bit about what you feel is the importance of video today. We have all these wonderful new opportunities to get video out there, and the internet and all these wonderful delivery devices that we'll talk about a little bit more later. But why do you think that businesses should be involved in using video today? What's so important? What's the big deal?
I think in general, it's still new enough that just by doing it, you're already kind of standing out. Maybe in certain circles, that's not really the case anymore, but I think for a lot of companies, just by having, like, if you had like a main video on your website when you go to your website, that's going to be something your competition probably won't have. The ones that are really doing it well are doing lots of video, and it's going to make different companies will have different needs for how they're going to deploy that. I think a company with different types of products, physical products, it makes a lot of sense to do lots of different types of videos about different uses for those videos, and building out like YouTube brand channels, things like that. But I think in general, it helps get people's attention, and it helps them understand easily what your message and what your story is all about.
Let's talk a little bit about YouTube. It seems like in addition to being able to all the technical concerns about being viral and all that, but it seems like the fact that anybody can produce videos nowadays. You see a lot of stuff on there that would be what I would call lower production value videos. And I think even some bigger companies are attempting to produce videos that look lower production value so that they look homespun. It seems like there's an honesty or a realness about some of those things. Do you feel that there's a lessening of production standards or production values in videos today? Well, where is this all going, do you think?
I think it's like everything you said is true, and it's kind of just case by case basis. I think in general, as a society, because we have been so saturated with marketing messages over the years, we are very sensitive to that, and we appreciate authenticity. And so I think kind of making things feel authentic, definitely in a lot of cases makes a lot of sense. But that's not to say that higher production values and crafting a message that feels polished and presenting things in a positive light doesn't have its place. I think it certainly does. And you just like you wouldn't want to wear a jogging suit to a business meeting, you want to present your company in a professional manner. And I think that there's still a place for that. But and I think that even the different channels that a company might use, you might approach that in different ways. So you might, on your company website, have a nice, polished, well-produced video that has a consistent message, but then have more informal, casual videos that you use on YouTube or elsewhere, maybe blogs or Facebook and Twitter and things like that, that can be part of a consistent strategy. I think it's just making sure you know what your plan is and not treating it like one size fits all. Unless, of course, that makes sense for your strategy, which I guess could also be the case.
Sure, sure. We've got a question from Peter, actually, that's coming from England, and he'd like to know, do you have a view, Dane, on why businesses have so far been slow to adapt online video as a marketing tool?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I've struggled with to try and understand for a long time, and I'd say it probably boils down to a couple things. One, well, I guess more than a couple. One, it's there's a lot of confusion. I think, as most of us probably know, video's complicated, or can be. I mean, it's very easy to take out your phone or whatever and shoot video, but people also know that that's not all there is to it. There's also, as you go up in quality, there's other considerations, and it's not good. It's not easy to come up with a good idea. So in general, there's a lot of confusion. I think there's a lot of confusion about how to look at the ROI, the return on investment, like how much money it makes sense to spend, and what the goals are, what the goals should be, and with all the different channels we have, the YouTubes, the mobile devices, Facebook, your website, your blog, there's Google TV. There's just so many options and so many variables, and it's not even a slam dunk in a lot of cases. So there's just a lot of confusion. I think it's hard to do, and it takes people outside their comfort zone. I think when you're talking about doing interviews, like putting people on camera, a lot of people don't want to be on camera. And then when you talk about the traditional alternatives to that, would be maybe doing animation or something like that. But a lot of people are just so naive about what it really takes to make something quality there. You've got to develop a quality concept, and then also have good quality assets animated well, which can get incredibly expensive very quickly. So I think it just still remains elusive. It's kind of too hard for most companies to do right now. It's a whole lot easier to blog.
Yes, it is. Do you have a particular approach that you take with your business about approaching this industry?
Well, I guess I'm not really sure what you mean by that. I guess
How do you approach working with your customers? What angle do you take in your business?
oh, I see what you're saying. As my name sort of my business hopefully implies, I do try and be like an accomplice or a partner. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek of a name I was trying to go for there, but I do really see a lot of confusion about the technology, about the processes, both technical and creative. And all this stuff is changing, both the technology and the techniques and the possibilities. So I try and treat every client or even prospect client as a partner, and focus really on the relationship and being an advocate for them, and helping them just find their way forward. And if they turn into a client, great. If not, then maybe they'll be an advocate for me, or maybe they'll be a friend. Maybe they'll refer business to me. And I think that there's enough video and there's enough digital stuff that's going to happen out there in the world in the next 10, 20, 50 years that there's enough pie for all of us. I think I just want to be an advocate. And so that's really the way I approach my clients is, let me partner with you, and let's try and structure the deal if we can, so that we're not not fighting over price, like how cheap video can we get, or how cheap can we make it. I try and find partnership deals, and that's what a lot of my clients are finding valuable. Is that way it's tapping into not just my video production capability, but also my social media knowledge, my connections within the different industries that I'm in. So that way I can go out there and be an advocate for not just creating the video, but sharing it, building those relationships. And I find that when we are partners, then we have the same goals, and then we're fighting the same battles.
Mm-hmm. Another question. Today it seems like the delivery medium has moved from the computer to devices like this, where you're dealing with a very small screen. You've got smartphones. My wife and I both got a couple of these Kindle Fires at Christmas time. We absolutely love them. This thing is a fantastic video display device. I haven't got it it plays everything seamlessly. It doesn't matter whether it's Silverlight or Flash or HTML5. It does a really great job. So, but obviously you're dealing with, a very small screen environment. How do you produce for that as opposed to the big screen, shall we say? It started out with these big, giant, large screen TVs. Now we're getting down to producing for a 2-inch monitor. What do you do to accommodate that?
Well, it's not that the other stuff has gone away. We're just adding other channels and other products, and that'll always change. So I try and focus not too much on the technology, but obviously you do need to take that into consideration. So if you are going to be producing something that's going to be viewed on a mobile device, and a lot of things will be, you just have to be conscious of that and make sure that the text isn't so small that people on looking at it on an iPhone can't read it, or that there's not so much stuff happening that the compression makes it really choppy and hard to view. If you can, if that's a priority for the project. I think that with more devices and more channels, just becomes more opportunities. And I don't know, I just look at each project with its own goals and what are we trying to achieve. Sometimes how it looks on a mobile device isn't the main goal. Sometimes that's the only goal. So it just kind of depends.
Right. We've got a couple of questions actually from New York. Anthony has written in. They said that they've always preferred shooting people in a documentary style rather than a scripted style, which they feel feels forced and flat. You want to know what your feeling is about scripted versus, a more of an open documentary style for your working with your clients.
Yeah, I think as we sort of talked about before, authenticity is definitely appreciated these days, and I do kind of prefer that in general. That said, some of my clients, sometimes you need to do a scripted style. Like I have pharmaceutical clients, and they have very strict legal requirements that they have to say things in a certain way, otherwise they can get in trouble. So sometimes that's not an option. Other times, if you're talking with someone or interviewing them, they can't get it out, and they might need a teleprompter, or they might need it to be scripted. Or I've shot videos before where I try and craft the message in such a way where I know the that I'll edit it in really short bites so that even though it's scripted, they'll only be saying a couple words on screen at a time. So break up a sentence into several different shots, then you can deliver that in a pretty authentic kind of way that doesn't really feel scripted, but it could be scripted. And there's a website, or there's a video on my website that actually illustrates that pretty well. It's the main video on my homepage if you want to check that out. But yeah, I think documentary is definitely something that's preferred, and that authenticity can help in a lot of ways. It adds, obviously credibility, and avoids that marketing stench, which we're all sort of really, I don't know, probably sick of.
Right. I'd like to suggest another alternative that I've been introduced to in the last year or so, and that's the use of an ear prompter. If you look at the videos on the MarketVid site, most all of those are done, like if you look at the ones for MarketVid University we have in there, or even my videos that I'm giving, we're using ear prompters. And what that is it's basically the same type of thing you see on network news. It's a little earpiece that you can't see that goes down to a portable recorder. I encourage you to take a look at Tom Bruno's. He's one of our coaches. Take a look at his video on camera presentation. He has introduced us he has an ear prompter trainer, by the way, and is available. You can book time with him on our site. He's fantastic. He does a 7-minute video in there, and the entire thing is done scripted. He's recorded the script into a portable recorder. He's listening to himself in his ear. Now, it takes quite a bit of experience to get to do that, but it was very effective. And we use ear prompters a lot to get people who are uncomfortable with, they can't do the documentary thing because they can't remember everything. They don't do well with the script because they sound stilted. The ear prompter is a great in between. So I encourage all of you that are watching to take a look at some of those videos that we have, and you'd be amazed at how effective that is. Let's take another question from Robert, also in New York. He says, if not revealing any trade secrets, do you have any suggestions, Dane, about what you mean by your partnership deals look like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's really any secret to give away, honestly. I just, I think it just depends on what the company is that you're trying to do the deal with, and what makes sense. There's a value that exists in a relationship, hopefully, that someone like myself can bring to the transaction, or to the business deal, and where that value can be demonstrated, there's a reasonable market value that can be sort of tied to that. For example, if you have let's say you have a product, and they have $100,000 worth of sales in a year, just to pick a number. And they don't really have a video marketing budget, but they want to do video. They have a feeling that that will really help them, but they haven't planned ahead. They don't really believe that, that will necessarily help them. What we try and do is say, okay, well, if we believe in your product and we're willing to take a little bit of risk and do a little bit of investment, we will, produce at cost some videos, or one video, and we'll take a certain percent of the incremental revenue. Or you could just do deferred payment. It just kind of depends on whatever both parties are comfortable with. I've also done deals where you're developing a product with a partner, and you both co-own it, and then from whatever sales of that product, you both you get your percentages of that revenue. I think really until people get comfortable that video is sort of worthwhile, that it's such an uphill battle to prove to people that you should spend X amount, and if you spend X amount, you'll get Y back. So I would just urge you to try and explore those with companies that you feel confident in partnering with. It can work.
Great. Excellent suggestions. I like the idea about getting in at cost and then sharing a part of the percentage going down the line. when you're producing videos for people today, and and I realize all these things we're taking a snapshot of where we are today. It's different yesterday from where it'll be tomorrow. But what is working right now? What do you feel works in marketing video? What approaches are successful at this moment in time?
Yeah, there's a couple things that sort of suggestions I generally try and I don't know, suggest to my clients. If you're kind of not sure what to do with video, but you're pretty much convinced that you want to try something, a great place to start is just sort of with the overview video, the classic sort of who are we, what do we do, maybe like a somewhere between 15 seconds and 3 minutes is probably a good, you know, place to start. I think it's hard to say much in less than 30 seconds or a minute, but after a minute or two, it starts to get a little long-winded. But that's a nice way to kind of just let people see what your company is, what you're about, what you offer, and is incredibly shareable. You can use it for mobile devices, you can post it on your blog, Facebook, Twitter, and then that's out there working for you while you sleep. So, if you put that on YouTube, someone in another country can be watching that, becoming more familiar and educated with your company without you doing anything extra. So yeah, you paid the upfront cost, but once it's out there, it doesn't go away. So that's kind of like a good suggestion. And then I think the other sort of thing you can do, doesn't matter what videos you are doing, but to use SEO tactics, which means, if you don't know, search engine optimization, to optimize your videos. And there's a lot of things that pros, even like myself, still don't do, either because we're busy or lazy or whatever you want to call it. But looking into doing a little research on the on what the tactics are to optimize your videos for SEO is, I think, super smart. It's measurable. It's effective. Using meta tags as many as you can, making sure they're targeted. The file name of your actual video matters. The actual order of the words that you're using matters. The Google algorithm is actually going to look at the first words first, and then as you go down through the name, those later words you're using are less relevant. Also, having people link to your videos, watching your videos, making lists on YouTube, having likes, follows, like all that stuff, it all counts, it all matters. And I could go on and on for days talking about it, and it's probably SEO information overload, but I'd say just focus on SEO because it is measurable and it really, really matters, because you can't just put your video out there and hope people watch it. It just doesn't work.
Dane, you've done some nice posts on our blog already. I hope maybe you'll share some of these other ideas when you have an opportunity on the MarketVid post. We'd appreciate it. Where do you think we're going right now and here in 2012? If you could see, down the next I like to ask all our guests this, in the next couple of years, where do you think things are going and what's really going to be important going forward?
I think, for video specifically, we're going to see more and more video. I think quality is going to matter more. Not necessarily the image quality, could just be the quality of concept, could be the consistency of delivery. I think, if you were a company that had a good reason to be using video and did it in multiple channels at a high enough quality, sort of both visual fidelity quality and also quality of concept, on a regular basis through many channels, I think it would be really, really hard to not be successful. So I think more and more people are going to be catching on to that, and they're going to look at companies like Zappos, which is like killing it with their conversion rate when they have a video that shows what the shoe is all about. Or the largest brand channel on YouTube is Machinima, and they have a lot of video game related content, but they keep expanding and expanding, and they figured out this sort of secret formula, and so I guess the crystal ball will be more and more brands are going to be using video in more and more ways and more channels, and I still feel like we're really just at the beginning, and I know someone smart, probably a Google or somewhere like that, is going to invent more and more tools that help us track and test and measure all this stuff, so it won't be such a hard sell, and people will know what's working a little bit better than they do today.
I'm going to ask you a question I like to ask all of our guests on a scale of 1 to 100 in terms of the, shall we say, ubiquity of marketing video in the business marketplace. Would you say we're, on a scale of 1 to 100, are we at 1, are we at 100, are we at 50? Where do you think we are in terms of where this is and where we're going?
Yeah, I've sort of thought about this before, and I think it feels maybe more like 25%. Maybe not even that, because if you think about, I mean, where you really could use video, there's so many places it could be used that it's not being used. And the reason it's not being used is because either the technology isn't cheap enough, or the success of it hasn't been proven, or the market hasn't been developed. Like before we had iPads and iPads and iPods and iPhones and all that stuff, no one needed to produce content for that. But once we have kiosks at every coffee shop where you decide what coffee you're going to buy by watching a video about it, or whatever it is that we decide we're going to do, all that content's going to need to be produced. So it's easy to see how we could be a lot more saturated than where we are now.
We've got another question from our viewer in England, and he also makes a comment that he thinks on a scale of 1 to 100, we're at about 5.
Yeah, I mean,
in his marketplace. He says that you mentioned that the benefits of YouTube in terms of SEO, but he noticed that the videos on your site are streamed on Vimeo, which have a great HD quality. But he wondered, is it for quality reasons that you're using Vimeo or SEO? What's behind your decision to use them?
So what you're seeing there is a company in evolution. So yes, that's exactly why they were published on Vimeo originally. So when I started my company, I came from it very much from the standpoint as a video producer, an editor, a content guy. And I think that's really what Vimeo has been and still is sort of like an insider's YouTube for people who care about quality, and that's where you're going to post your stuff to make it look good. But what I've learned along the way, and my opinion of my own company and what I want to do, is I want to reach people. I want people to find me. I want people to find my content. And YouTube is the #2 search engine out there, Google being the #1, and YouTube is owned by Google, so really it's all the same thing. And so yes, you're suffering a drop in quality, but by being on YouTube, you're just much more findable. And the tools and the support that Google and YouTube are rolling out for those YouTube videos will continue to grow, and they are growing right in front of us. I just haven't really made the time yet to switch over, and it's probably a good idea, but it is my first year of business, and I struggle every day with prioritizing what's worthwhile and what isn't, and hasn't seemed like that's been a high enough priority to get to. But I think that's definitely, when I do my next version of my website, I'll probably be switching over to 100% YouTube.
In MarketVid, we have used YouTube, and we've also used Brightcove. And what we've done is we're not currently using Brightcove, but any of the videos we had that we felt were proprietary and that we wanted to lock down and not be public. In fact, if you're doing, say, a client video where it's maybe a training video for their staff and they don't want that to be out on the street, you can use some of these services to provide private lockdown videos that can't be shared. You cannot do that on YouTube. You can create a video that has a private link, but it still is shareable. So those are some of the reasons for that too. It's complicated. One last question. I know we're getting up to the end of our time. In fact, we're running a little bit over. If there's one piece of advice you could give everybody that's involved in this, in businesses and using video, what would you say as a piece of advice going forward?
I would say probably focus on SEO and tracking. Right now, that seems to be the weak link. I think a lot of people want to do video. A lot of customers want to do video. but they don't know how to measure its success. But when you start looking at video as an SEO tool, it becomes much more of a slam dunk. Especially, I think that also really opens up the door to making video part of maybe a blog strategy, like doing weekly blog videos, or using like an inbound content marketing strategy. I think it starts to make a lot more sense. You're also, as a video production company, going to get more business, but I think for the business, your client, that also makes more sense because you're creating regular content. Every single time you do that, you're able to add meta tags, create new information, new value for your customers, and it just seems so much more of a slam dunk than some of the other possible uses at the moment. So I think educate yourself on SEO and think of video as an SEO tool above all else at the moment.
Okay. We got another couple of questions coming in, and those of you that are sending them, I'm sure, I don't know that we'll have time to take them right now, but you can look up Digital Accomplice. I'm sure that Dane would be happy to take your questions that way. And I'd like to say along the lines of that we're just talking here about inbound marketing and content marketing, this is something I think you're going to be hearing a lot more about from MarketVid in the coming months. This is something that we're very bullish on, the idea of the whole concept of drawing people to you with content and the importance of how video is absolutely critical to that. We've all heard the stats that putting a video on a website increases the search engine optimization by 53 times. Well, that's enormous. So video is a critical factor in content marketing. So Dane, thank you very much. This has been great, and we appreciate you being with us here today. Today's chat has been sponsored by, thank you again, and today's chat again has been sponsored by 10-Day Marketing Makeover and Gil Efron, author of the book How to Give Your Business an Extreme Marketing Makeover. This book, again, I said, is an essential part of how we think about marketing because Gil's concept is that you look at your sales process, identify points of constraint with your customers, and only market toward those so that your marketing dollars are spent very efficiently, and then developing videos specifically for those types of things. Our next web chat that's coming up is going to be a little shift in gears. We have, actually next Friday, January 27th, we're going to have Paul Bailey, who is a professional lighting expert and professional photographer. He used to be a member of the Professional Photographers of America and has won many awards. He's going to be talking with us about lighting, specifically for video. And I think in particular people who are having to do videos where they don't have a lot of lighting equipment, how can you work with what's available around you? Paul is one of our coaches, and you'll see some of his homespun training videos on our site, and I think he's got a really excellent approach to how to approach things in a very practical way. And also, depending on how much time we have next week, he's also an expert on digital photography and using digital photography in videos. Sometimes we have to shoot stills when we can't shoot a video, so he's going to be talking about that. That's again next Friday. And registration for that event is open right now. So this web chat, as all of ours have been recorded and will be available soon. We usually have the posting done on that, have that up by Monday, so you're welcome. It'll be on YouTube. You're welcome to share this, and you'll find it in the web chat area of the MarketVid site.